First of all, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. The first thing that I will say is the recommendations that you talked about, please feel free to send that to the clerk and we'll make sure that that's included in the testimony. The first question that I have is around the land code. It seemed to me from your presentation that when you spoke about that, it was sort of a progressive process towards moving towards self-governance. And so you moved out of something where RCMP could come and enforce, you moved to something that was promoted by the federal government, and now you're in a position where you can't enforce it. I just want to make sure that I got that right.
Yeah, that's correct. So I actually developed our land code law prior to being elected in as chief. And so the big selling feature to members who are voting to whether or not to ratify a land code is that, we have the ability to create our own laws, that they will be recognized in the courts and enforced by the RCMP. That's basically what the FNLM tells you. And so you go into this, telling your members, this is a great thing. And then when we get to the reality of it, we find that, yes, we can create the laws, but we can't get the enforcement, we can't get the recognition in the courts, without going through a costly process like Comox had to do.
So it was an expensive court case, and the representative from Indigenous Services Canada today in his presentation called it a success earlier. I'm just wondering if you would describe it as a success, and did this result in any ability of the RCMP to be able to come onto your nation and enforce this bylaw?
It's actually a law, not a bylaw. I think that's an important distinction, for sure. Sorry, what was the question again?
Was it a success?
Was it a success?
And
okay.
Does the court case, has it made it possible for the RCMP to come and enforce your law?
Sadly, no. I would call it a success. Absolutely. It is a precedent-setting case across Canada. I've been asked to speak all over Canada about this case. However, I'm facing this issue literally today with another trespass issue, and I don't have the confidence that the RCMP will be there to assist in the enforcement of, our notice of trespass, even though the previous Thorderson decision, ultimately the decision was that it needed to be enforced by the RCMP, and I just don't feel confident that that's going to happen today.
Okay, so after this court case, I'm just wondering, did anyone from the federal government, after seeing this success, reach out and talk about how they could support creating solutions for your nation in terms of enforcement of your laws?
No. I've been asked to speak by the Department of Justice in Ottawa, and I've done that with the lawyer several times, doing presentations on that case, but nobody has reached out to see how we could, fix it so that, today when I have to go back up there and see if these trespassers have now left, there's no solutions in sight.
So I'm just wondering, was there any mechanism for you and your nation to recoup any of the cost to the nation to take on this really important court case?
Well, I think it's important to note that the First Nations Lands Management Resource Centre did end up reimbursing us for the cost of that court case. I'm not sure if today, when we, find out if these trespassers are now leaving, we'll have to go to court again if they haven't. And I'm not sure that they would, feel as generous this time around. I do know that in speaking with the inspector here locally with the RCMP, he's feeling, like his hands are tied a little bit because there isn't that direction from his higher ups to enforce, because they do want to. It's just that they need that direction.
And I've heard that as well from RCMP, local RCMP across the riding, is often they feel very frustrated. They want to help, but they can't because there's not the clear pathway. So I'm just wondering, in terms of that discussion, how does it feel to be trying to govern your nation, having taken that step towards having a land code, doing all of the work to have your own laws in place, consulting obviously with your membership, and then not being able to enforce? One of the things that really hit me about your presentation today was you said in this case that you're dealing with later today is they're literally mocking you and saying, go ahead. And I'm just wondering, how does that feel for you as a leader of your community, and how does that resonate within your community?
Well, it's absolutely frustrating on so many, for myself, and speaking, we're only speaking of the trespass issues, but I am regularly in the face of crack dealers who are not band members. They are guests of band members living on reserve. And because we have certificates of possession, we can't simply kick people out because they have rights to their homes and their properties. And so, I'm consistently putting myself in danger because we can't get that support that is very desperately needed. And it's frustrating from a leadership perspective to see how frustrated our members are. The question is, why isn't Chief and Council doing anything? And we regularly have our CMP liaison officer attending our meetings to try and explain to the membership why Chief and Council can't achieve these things, why we can't kick crack dealers off our lands, why we can't deal with trespassers. And it's because of the lack of authority given to the local RCMP detachments from above.
And so continuous conflict in your own nation because you cannot enforce what you have tried to create a law for.